Trump took $7,700,000 from his supporters' donations and gave it to his companies and children. Trump directs nearly one-fifth of his money to his own businesses. When billionaires like Michael Bloomberg and Steve Forbes get into politics, they firewall their own companies off from their campaigns, demonstrating a basic care about the appearance of conflict of interest. Not so Donald Trump, who rents himself office space, sells himself private jet time, and supplies water, booze, and country club ballrooms. All in all, over $6 million in campaign expenditures so far have been made to Trump companies, and more have been made with companies entangled with his immediate family. For example, he bought $4,700,000 worth of Made in China Make America Great merch from A-Specialties, a company owned by a board member of his son's charitable foundation. With the Trump campaign almost out of money, he's starting to beg his faithful for cash, which will doubtless funnel back into his own pockets. In addition, he's loaned his campaign $46 million, which he is permitted to pay back with donor funds, though he claims he won't do this. According to a new filing with the Federal Elections Commission, Donald Trump's kids have been profiting handily from his campaign. To date, his children and companies have been paid $7,700,000 in campaign contributions, and that figure is on the rise. Roughly 20% of Trump's campaign spending in May, $1 million, went directly to his children, and another $800,000 did so in July. It would seem the ostensible itinerant business mogul has discovered the greatest legal campaign loophole on which to opportunistically capitalize. Campaign finance laws on the topic are hazy and contradictory, largely because no candidate for federal office has ever had such a sprawling business empire that could be employed for a campaign, wrote Vice News' Alex Thompson. The FEC allows candidates to rent themselves their own office space, as the Trump campaign does at Trump Tower, but bans them from collecting royalties on any memoirs purchased by the campaign. Money ultimately flows back to the candidate in both cases, but the FEC has issued divergent rules. Trump's complex web of interconnected businesses and services, coupled with extensive family involvement, makes this known gray area in campaign finance law a bit shadier than would ordinarily be the case. The extent of Mr. Trump's use of his own companies for goods and services during the campaign is unprecedented, explained Paul S. Ryan, a campaign finance expert and deputy executive director of the Campaign Legal Center. As quoted by Thompson, it has the potential to transfer donations to himself and his children. Why would donors give money when the first dollars go to help a billionaire buy products from his own company? Spies asked. The biggest payment to a Trump company is $4,600,000 to Tiger, the holding company of his airplanes. His campaign headquarters is at Trump Tower in New York. The campaign has paid about $520,000 in rent and utilities to Trump Tower Commercial LLC and to Trump Corporation. In July, documents show, the billionaire demagogue's campaign paid nearly $170,000 to Trump Tower Corporation LLC, $48,239 for rent and catering at Trump National Golf Club in Westchester, $1,000 to Trump Restaurants LLC, and $428,530 worth of Trump's bottled water Trump Ice. In May, Trump's campaign spent $3,900,000 at the vineyard run by his son Eric, Thompson wrote. Indeed, because his seemingly countless businesses and their offshoots are inextricably tied to Trump himself, as hefty contributions continue to increase as the general election nears, the billionaire's children's associates have been making a killing, as well. Millions spent each month on apparel, such as the iconic red trucker hat bearing the Make America Great Again slogan, go to A-Specialties, owned by board member of son Eric Trump's charitable organization, Chrysler Mahfouz. And it shows in his latest campaign finance report, filed Monday, Trump-linked businesses account for 17% of all campaign expenses to date. He's paid almost $11 million to Trump organizations since launching his campaign a year ago. The setup shows how unusual Trump's campaign is, Presidential candidates generally don't own buildings or resorts in multiple states or companies that could be used as contractors. He's paid $420,000 to Mar-a-Lago, the private Florida club where Trump has led many an election night celebration, and $4,600,000 to TAG Air, so he can use his private jets. Even about $5,000 to Eric Trump Winery Manufacturing LLC, the Virginia producer owned by his son. Other expenses include $577,000 for payroll and rent at Trump Tower, which doubles as campaign headquarters, and $4,700,000 to Ace Specialties, which supplies Trump's online store and whose owner is Chrysal Mahfouz, who sits on the board of directors of Eric Trump's foundation. And $400 to Trump Ice LLC, which makes bottled waters. Just in May, he spent $208,000 on hats, $5,000 on sit-ins and $694,000 on T-shirts, mugs and stickers. By sourcing the campaign's goods and services as closely as possible to businesses run by Trump, his children, and their allies, he stays technically, if loosely, within the letter of the law of campaign finance. But in order for any scrutinous evaluation of this incestuous campaign-to-business-to-family feedback loop to occur, as Thompson explained, either the Trump campaign would have to request the FEC get involved, or the FEC would have to initiate its own investigation, neither of which are likely to happen. The FEC isn't going after anyone for anything these days, Ryan flatly stated. Unless an elections probe comes to fruition, Trump and his kids will continue to reap the rewards of a successful, if highly contentious, campaign bid, whether or not he ultimately wins the comfiest seat in the Oval Office. Perhaps he planned it this way for years. In 2000, Trump purely prognosticated he could possibly be the first presidential candidate to run and make money on it. At worst, it suggests that Trump is actively trying to profit from his presidential run. In 2016, Americans get to choose from a warmongering criminal tyrant or a con artist who's ripping his supporters off to enrich himself. Bravo America. Bravo.